and welcome to another version, a special edition, I guess they'll call it, a scandal edition of Bill Roden on Sports. I'm Bill Roden, holding it down here in a really undisclosed location because as Stephen A. Smith said, they come for everybody. You know, not me. I don't gamble.
I hear that.
Although we do that, are we going to drop the gambling? Hey, Jamal holding it down in Brooklyn. What's going on, man? Are we going to drop our gambling ad?
Hey, what's up, Bill? Great to be here. Yes, in Brooklyn. No, is the NBA going to drop their gambling ads? That's
That's
that's the real question.
Of
Is
course
that
not.
are the NBA going to stop promoting gambling on TV, in the arenas and all that? It's not just the NBA; it's all the sports.
It's the
So
NFL, Major League. I don't know. I mean, I guess by now, unless you're under a rock, you know that the FBI had a very high-profile perp walk in which they arrested Chauncey Billups, the head coach of the Portland Trail Blazers, who many of us all know and respect. They who else they
they got
arrested?
they got
Rozier.
yeah, Terry Rozier, which was a case that we had heard about years ago.
Right,
2 or 3 years ago. He when Porter, the kid who got banned from the league forever, when that
right,
case came down, Rozier was like an ancillary part of that, so they kept investigating him. And they also got like a Damon Jones, remember,
right,
former NBA player who's an assistant coach, recent assistant coach.
right.
So you know,
Yeah, so I guess we'll still have enough people to field the season, right? So far, unless they,
so far,
and so I mean, who knows what's next? But I guess the thing is, there's so many layers to this. Stephen A. Smith weighed in the other day. Now he's gotten back into a back and forth with the FBI director, talking about, warning on his panel, his soliloquy that the Trump revenge, he's coming for the NBA. He's probably he predicted he's coming for the WNBA, two leagues who are the image of both the WNBA and the NBA, like they're very liberal leagues. Obviously, a lot of brothers, a lot of black
two
folks.
woke,
They tend to be
two woke
liberal.
leagues.
Yeah, woke leagues, uh, and and yeah, I mean clearly, and law enforcement does this all the time. It's very high profile. I mean, the season just started. The
Right.
NBA just season started, and they said, you know what, this is a good time to publicize this arrest. Now, the
Great
Biden
time.
administration had been on this too. I mean, just in all,
But they didn't come out with it.
yeah, they didn't come out with it because maybe they didn't have it. Whatever the reason is.
Just as far as that goes, because I half agree with Stephen A. Smith. I agree that it was kind of a targeted situation.
Right,
Yes, people will say, well, the investigations were started under Biden. That's true, but many it's one thing to have an investigation and one thing to go with a full throated indictment and put people's names out there in
right,
a press conference and have the head of the FBI have a press conference calling for it. And this head of the FBI, by the way, Kash Patel, was a podcaster with us, 2 years ago. So I say that to say that if you ever had full trust in government agencies and the FBI and that type of thing, which as Black people, I'm not sure you would ever,
right.
but um, in recent years, it's not the same FBI. I think you have to go back decades to get the dynamic of this FBI. Okay,
Right.
where
Well, they
they
had
where they
J. Edgar Hoover.
right where because
Car-
they've publicly gotten rid of all the impartial
right,
workers in the FBI over the
right,
past year or so. I'll just
right,
put that out there.
right.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And this is, it's targeted. And I think we've all been feeling that if it ever was impartial, it ain't now,
Right.
and I think people are, I just did at the University of, at UConn, they just had a sports and human rights symposium at UConn.
Hmm.
And I was honored to moderate a conversation between Tommy Smith and John Carlos. The Olympians who in 1968 raised what I still believe is one of the most iconic photos in sports journalism history when they raised their fist on the podium in Mexico City. And 57 years later, we talk about it. And I said, and it's such an honor. Hey, no telling what would happen to you guys if you did that now. And in fact, the administration is gearing up, for the Olympics that are going to be the Olympics are going to be in Los Angeles, and the World Cup is coming in next year.
Right.
And I think both of these things are going to be weaponized.
Right.
And we just don't know as much as we've pissed off the rest of the world. We just announced dropping all sanction negotiations with Canada. So you've got all these countries who are playing soccer in the World Cup, and there are big events in the United States. And there's got to be protest, but no telling what the reaction against those protests is going to be. It's going to be something. But Smith and Carlos talked about the consequences, even in '68, the consequences they faced when they came back from Mexico City. The next 10 years of their lives were like hell, and I think that, and I'm sure, like you mentioned, Hoover and the FBI and how they spied on Dr. King, they spied on all civil rights organizations. And sure, the spying has never left. I mean, there were administrations who were spying on the Ku Klux Klan. They had,
think back to even Chicago and the Panthers,
right.
And they did more than spy.
Yeah, well, you're right. There was actually a play there. Was it Judas? Was it Judas and I forget the name of the movie?
Yeah, I remember.
But when Fred Hampton was murdered in his bed by Chicago police. So I guess we've always lived in this environment,
right?
That if anybody who pushed back against the power structure always ran the risk of having facing severe consequences. Now it just seems like it's very out in the open. That if you agree with all the policies or you keep your mouth shut, you're fine. If you don't, it's kind of touch and go, more on the side of go. So
right.
And you and I have always talked on these things about, well, how are they going to go after sports? And now we're thinking about the Super Bowl, and clearly the administration and the far right and even the medium right don't want Bad Bunny, who is one of the most popular artists on earth.
Right.
And they don't want him. They don't want him to perform. And the NFL, Goodell just had a press conference saying, "Well, no, we're behind him. He's the most popular." So now, okay, let's see. The Department of Homeland Security has already said that. Well, I think we're just going to send ICE out to the Super Bowl,
right,
and arrest.
Well, they're everywhere else. They're in New York now.
Why not they? They're in New York. I mean,
Canal Street.
Yeah, on Canal Street, sweeping up people. So, if you're brown,
right,
so
I mean, it got me. I'm scared. People have always thought, I'm Dominican or Puerto Rican, and outside of New York, people get confused about Puerto Ricans and Dominicans being Mexican, and
right.
So I go out there. They might throw me against the wall.
Yeah, you just have to have a thing where a sign said no African American. For
and they'll say we'll get you later. We'll get you later.
Yeah, we'll come. We just let's. So no, man, it's really deep. Now, it begs the question. So the revenge and all that begs the question of how the NFL, NBA, maybe have all jumped in bed with gambling, and this was just inevitable. We kind of joke about all the time when we do our gambling reads and all that, how easy it is to gamble and how naive it is to think that even athletes, in the NBA, the Major League Baseball, probably hockey, that's it's not high profile enough. But, that you have all these, young athletes with a lot of money. It's naive to think that they're not getting, because it's so easy and it's so competitive. And so when you jump in bed with this, it's I think we predict it's only a matter of time before you got this going. Now, does we 34 people, we mentioned Rozier, Billups, I forget Porter was already spent. I mean, we're talking about 5 people.
There's
Now,
a,
I don't
there's
know
a,
if
yeah,
that,
there's a
if that
couple,
constituted.
there's a couple others. Beasley,
Yeah,
who was
Beasley's under
not
investigation.
under investigation, for the past few couple of years. Same thing. Damon Jones, as we said, he was one of the people named, and he's a former player, assistant coach.
Right.
Inside information type of thing is, I think, what they're after him for. Is supposedly he gave information that LeBron James was going to miss a game or something. I mean, a lot of this stuff. I haven't read it, the indictment, or the any of the documents from the case, so I don't know exactly what what they're alleging, but that's the stuff that's been made public.
Right. Well, you're a lawyer, man. You got to read the documents.
I do. I do.
You got.
I've just been so I'm so jaded with this administration. I just go
Right.
into it like,
Well, yeah,
you
yeah.
know
Like, yeah, you
I
just
don't I like, but part of me does not even want to give it credence and read the documents.
right,
But I
right.
will.
Yeah, yeah. I guess you have to. That you just don't trust the administration. I mean, again, if you're down with the administration, if you're down with that, then you trust them.
Right.
If you don't, if you're not, and if you think that we're kind of getting to, we're moving this country far, far, far to the right, and all that entails, then you're suspicious of everything.
Right.
And even here, when you see the rest, again, the cautionary tale to athletes, is like, stop. If you're doing it, stop. If you're gambling, stop. Because remember, in the NFL, maybe last year, some Detroit Lions players
Right.
were suspended.
Right.
One may have been suspended for life or something like that. So this stuff has been kind of around the edges. But when you invite this wolf into your house, don't be surprised when the wolf, when it's dinner time, that that the wolf looks at you.
Right.
And that's what the NFL, Major League Baseball, the NBA, the NFL, they've done. They've invited this wolf of gambling into their house because it's another money stream. And it's the issue when money becomes the highest value, which it is now firmly. When money is the highest value of your society, of your culture, then all bets are off. Integrity, moral clarity, all that stuff goes off the table because it's money is the highest value.
I,
So
I
yeah,
wonder if you know sports gambling was made legal a few years ago, right?
right.
Did Was that inevitable? Right? Was there anything? Do you think they needed the sports leagues to okay it or agree to it? I can't remember at the time.
Well, the Supreme Court. I forget the rule,
Right,
but
right. The Supreme Court ruled that it would be legal, but I think that was in New Jersey. It was like in one state at that time. But I mean, obviously that would be precedence, and it would have expanded. So I'm wondering if it was inevitable, if the leagues really had a choice, like if the country and the Supreme Court was saying, "Hey, this stuff is legal now, let's go."
could the sports league have said no?
Could they have said no, or did they know it was inevitable and, hey, we're going to because obviously they're profiting from it. So was that the way of like, hey,
I
if it's
think
going to be legal, we got to profit from it?
yeah, I think the profit again that gets into the money value. I think they say, oh yeah, this is going to be we're really going to be able to benefit from this, and so we'll take care of the morals. I mean, we'll tell the players not to gamble, but I think that the idea of this being so lucrative overrode any of the guardrails or any objection that we can't do this. I think the goal overrode any other considerations. Like, you know what, we can't do this. We can't have DraftKings and all that stuff. We can't do that. I think that whoever thought like that was probably booed out of the room.
Right. And
So
no,
that yeah.
and don't so getting back to the NBA side of things specifically. Remember, okay, so Billups. Remember, this isn't Billups. Billups is about a poker ring,
Right.
right? So that's even something that's separate from the game itself. But let's talk about the NBA. What this mean? What do you think this means for the NBA? I've already said my opinion that it was kind of targeted towards the NBA. Who knows what they're trying to get the NBA to do in
Right.
back channels. I don't know. Maybe the NBA, push back on some issue. I'm just guessing here. Like maybe they push back and they're like, okay, we'll watch this. But
Right. Right.
what does it mean for the NBA? They obviously tried to embarrass the NBA in the opening week of the season. They had some great games, and this overshadows it. Um, what it, does it is this? Do you think this is a big? Is this a big stain on the NBA? Are people going to stop watching, believing in it? What do you think?
Well, they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop gambling. I mean, that's one thing. If that was the idea, they ain't going to start gambling. You know, um, I think you raise a good question. What did the NBA do that put a target on their back? Silver probably obviously is probably Democratic, probably very liberal. Probably did not support the president. Probably supported Kamala Harris. And again, to Stephen A. point, that makes the commissioner and by extension the NBA an enemy because you did not support him. So now we're going to embarrass you. We're going to attack you. Now the NFL famously, Republican. Most of the owners are probably pro-Trump, pro-administration, pro all this stuff. And I would even argue, I'm so jaded, I think probably a lot of the players, particularly white players, but are probably pro-Trump, very conservative. But how is this? But clearly they're pissed off. I don't think the president gives a damn one way or the other about Bad Bunny. But when your constituents say we're pissed off, they say, okay, I'm pissed off. Because that's another high profile road to enact revenge to prove that, hey, I'm down with you. So we still have to see that battle. What are they going to try to do to the NFL? I mean, what levers of power will they get to get the NFL to back down, will they withdraw the invitation? So to answer your question, what does the NBA do to piss them off? Because it's kind of like, these things are like like holding in the NFL or fouls. There are violations committed on every play.
Right.
You could call a foul or something every single play. You call holding on every single play.
Right.
But it's sort of like judicious. Well, we want the flow of the game. So here, this stuff's been going on. So okay, but we're going to choose this moment to pull the plug because this is the perfect time. And then also, just because the league is identified with black,
right,
and right now anything identified with black of color is targeted.
Right.
And you could always make your point about we're here for law and order, we're here, whatever, to MAGA or whatever, to target black people. Anytime you want to make that point that you're down with making America great, target black folks,
right?
As proof,
right?
And the NFL, what bigger proof is that? The NBA, and so, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see if it gets worse. If there's a pound of flesh that they want, maybe they want more white players. You guys got to now stop drafting all these black guys and give all these black guys all this money.
Yeah, or the various stands that the NBA has taken. With the vote, get out the vote. Republicans don't like people to vote.
Right.
So promoting voting and all the other stuff that the NBA has done that's seen as woke.
Right. Reading programs.
Right.
We don't
exactly. Exactly. Whereas you mentioned the NFL, and we know and have heard that even talking previous show with Ken Belson, that the NFL has been trying to work with Trump, and remember they won't put they took out end racism
right
from, so they are kind of like placating Trump with whereas we don't know if the NBA is doing that, so
right.
that might be a difference. And if will this kind of move by the FBI and by the administration, will it cause the NBA
to move to the right?
Right.
Yeah. And what does that mean? That's what we don't know. What does that look like? for the NBA to move to the right. You know, like it is perceived as a liberal league, it's perceived as a black league. I mean, you know what? You had LeBron James called the president a bum in
Right.
his first term.
Right.
You know, Steve Kerr has been very outspoken.
Popovich was.
Yeah,
Yep.
Popovich too. You know, so you know, again, when you do that, you automatically are on the shit list. You know, and says we're going to get you. You know, we're going to get you. So you know, as Stephen A. was saying, you know, they're coming. Now, what I don't understand when he said they're coming for you, I guess the question is, well, do you agree with him coming? Do you sympathize with him coming? Does he think that's a good thing that he's coming?
Based on his previous, and Stephen A. has been all over the place, so he's become the topic of conversation. So when so I'm going to comment on it, and when based on his previous comments, in the political realm and all that kind of stuff, it seemed to me he's saying, yeah, Trump is coming, so you guys need to act accordingly, right? You need to be scared. You can't say anything. You can't go at this guy because he has all the power. That's what he said in other realms. So that's what I took it to mean. So I half agree with him. I agree that, yes, I agree with you that he is coming for us and for people that disagree with him. But I disagree that you should just change your
Shut
behavior.
your mouth and behave.
Right.
Stop dribbling. Just dribble. Just stick.
Just stick to dribbling.
Right. Stick to dribbling. You know, one of the questions that came up at UConn, asking Smith and Carlos, there are a lot of athletes in the audience, and said, what do you suggest? I had them talk about the consequences they faced, and to these young kids, what do you suggest? When you want to dissent, when you want to resist. Again, we're in the environment. If you think it's all cool, then you're fine. But if you don't, how do you go about resisting? And facing consequences. And one thing Carlos said, which I thought was very, because Carlos, but they both went through a lot. And he said, I wish I'd do it again, but I didn't realize they were going to come after my family like they did. I wish I would have done more to protect my family, and how you do that.
How did they go after his family?
Well, he said one example, they sent his wife, she's in some sorority or something. They sent her pictures or something, saying that he had slept with all these women, or something. And I guess there are other, harassment tactics. But ultimately, his first wife took her life, because I guess there's ways they could just be pressured. Now, jobs that you had disappear. Say if you hired this guy, then your funds disappear. So it was that kind of thing. So, but the thing is, again, if you're going to protest, and I guess I want to think that during every administration, Obama, do administrations suffer protests? But I guess there's a certain expectation in this country that you could speak out and protest and not be, snatched off the street and sent to like Libya or something, So this whole thing, I guess there are a lot of cautionary tales. Number one, if you're gambling and you're doing some stuff you should be doing, you better stop it.
And if you have any affiliation with the NBA and you're running poker games, stop that also.
Stop that too. Yeah. We, like you said, we got to dig into the thing, and we're in this area. That if you're high profile, if you're an influencer, there's money. There's something to be. There's something to be not said for, but that's why people want to become influencers, because if you could establish yourself as an influencer, then you become valuable. And if you're an athlete and you're high profile, that is attractive to people. if they want you to come to their place to play poker or to do anything, to sign cars or to do whatever, because
Right.
you're high profile. And you now, and I mean, this is no secret, you have to check out your, you, always be aware of your surroundings. Who who's inviting you to do this stuff? Is it legitimate? Who are they associated with? You know, um,
Yeah, I
so
mean that's part of the gambling thing to me. We don't know each player's situation why they got involved, but it could be anything. It could be extortion. They could have gotten involved in something else, which now they're asking you to give inside information to
right.
prevent this or that from happening to you or your family. You never know, so you never know if it's just some love of gambling or they're just around the wrong people.
Yeah, that's a good question. And even now, I mean, and I'm sure that I was listening to sports shows. At some point, the host will say, "Well, they'll talk to a head coach about the season. Oh, how'd you come out of Sunday's game? What do the injuries look like?" And I'm always thought that's strange. That I guess, but that's valuable information. You're talking to. I hear it on the NFL shows, like you hear. The series has an NFL program, and invariably they'll have coaches talking to the co-host, and then somebody, well, hey, John, you had a tough game against San Diego, against the Chargers. How'd you come out injury wise, or how does Jaden look, or whatever, or how and it seems like now if you're a player, whatever, hey man, don't discuss that stuff. Don't discuss injuries. Don't discuss who's going to play, who's not going to play, because this is all valuable information for gamblers.
I mean, as long as it's public, you're fine. If it's in a media realm, that's fine. There, and I agree with you. That's an issue to me. Like, where's the line? Like, this is a lot of information people can get themselves.
Right,
Everything is so fast too. Like, just because they're saying he's going to play the day before doesn't mean he plays right before the game.
right,
How quick can you make a bet, for God's
right,
sake? But I think they're trying to. The people that the allegations are that they're giving inside information to people that they know are using it for illegal betting.
right,
That's the thing.
right. Yeah. So stay tuned.
And before we go, I know you have to get out of here. Everybody.
And so do you. You're going to see the Nets.
Hey, it's opening night, Bill. I gotta at least see how bad they are.
Oh
Even though I saw on TV, they look pretty bad against Charlotte in the opening game. But if you're listening on YouTube, you're watching on YouTube, share, like, subscribe. You're on social media at BrosPod, Twitter, Instagram, Bill Roden on Sports on Facebook. But I want to say, a lot of what I've been hearing is, oh, the FBI, it has to be real. And I just want to say that's not the case. Just pay attention to what's going on with other FBI and administration cases right now, who they're going after. People just get caught. And it's not the case in any situation, any administration.
Right.
You never know what's going on behind the scenes. But,
Right.
people just say when they hear FBI, oh, it has to be true.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
well, let's wait and see what happens.
Well, that's it. Let's wait to see. And, innocent till proven guilty.
Right.
I know it's a cliche,
Mhm.
but it's true. You just can't, I mean, it was, and I know it's hard to resist because you had this very high profile thing. You had like 30 something law enforcement that, talk about this, and the details are very salacious and juicy, but you don't know. So I know as hard as it is, let it play out, let it brew, as they say, let it brew, and let's see. Meanwhile, I don't know, watch those prop bets.
Well, for the players, watch those prop bets. Like,
The players watch the prop bets.
Yeah, don't think you could get over, because even some of the stuff like Rozier, we don't know what's going on there. And remember, the NBA said they did their own
Right, they said they did their own
investigation.
investigation.
And obviously, I'm pro NBA in this situation, but they have some self-interest there. Like, you can't really trust solely what the NBA when they investigate themselves.
Nothing here. Yeah. Remember, they've already had I was pulling up a column I wrote in 2007 when Donahue was, and David Stern was saying, just one guy, and Donahue was saying the conspiracy and all these wrestlers, and he said, don't listen to this guy. He's just trying to like reduce his time and all that. Don't listen to this guy. And they clearly had. Now, I don't know if what Stern, if Stern were alive, was still the commissioner, would he have vigorously fought and told his bosses, the two owners, do not get in bed with gambling, do not do that. I don't know what he would have thought, but
Probably not.
yeah, yeah. At some
Too
point,
too much money.
is just a lot of money, and that's the highest value. All right, everybody, listen. You know, what can we say, man? We're in crazy times. Just continue to keep your eyes open, enjoy sports, don't get distracted, don't take your eye off the ball. You know,
Well, it's coming into you as sports fans. It's coming into your realm right here. They're not letting you walk around blind because they're coming after the leagues just like they're coming after people on the streets.
right.
So you keep your eyes open, like you said.
That's right. Yeah, Portland Trailblazers looking for a coach.
That's right.
So, whew, my God. All right, everybody. Listen, hey, keep praying, and we'll see you enjoy the World Series. Remember the year started off with Otani.
That's right. That's right.
That's how we started off with the biggest sport, stars baseball, connected with gambling, and it turns out somebody took a fall. Well, I shouldn't say take a fall as if he was guilty, but
Hey,
he took a fall.
and I give you credit, Bill, because you're the only person I ever hear still talk about that. Hey, what about that? Even at the time, you were like, I don't know if I just believe, exactly what they say. And then I heard somebody yesterday bring it up, like, oh, Otani, they dismissed his case in like a day and a half.
Right, immediately. Nope, nothing there. It was this guy. Yeah.
And I was like, hey, Bill's been talking about that for a year or so.
Yeah, he didn't know that 250 million was missing from or whatever the number was. So it's tough out here, man. So we'll talk more about
Otani will be playing starting tonight. World Series game 1.
Biggest star. Everybody's forgot the home run, the inning, all that. It's all good. So,
that's right.
We shall see. All right, Jamal. Enjoy the Nets. All right. All right, everybody. We'll see you next week.